The morning coffee tasted bitter in Ambassador David Williams' mouth as he reviewed the daily reports from Earth. 3 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council, and the benefits seemed endless. New medicines that could cure cancer in days. Energy sources that made fossil fuels look like candles. Food production techniques that could feed billions with ease. Everything the Council promised had come true. David set down his cup and walked to the massive window of his quarters on Nexus Station. The view never got old. 12 different species ships docked at the enormous space station, their crews working together in what seemed like perfect harmony. The Council had existed for thousands of years, they told him. They were the guardians of peace and prosperity in this part of the galaxy. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. The door to his office slid open and Dr. Maya Rodriguez stumbled inside. Her usually neat lab coat was torn and dirty. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, and her hands shook as she clutched a small data device. "Maya, what happened to you?" David rushed to help her to a chair. "They lied to us, David. Everything is a lie." Her voice cracked with fear and anger. "I found their real files, hidden deep in their medical database. They're going to kill us all." David felt his stomach drop. Maya was the most careful scientist he knew. She never jumped to conclusions or made wild claims. If she said something was wrong, it was wrong. "Show me," he said quietly. Maya's fingers trembled as she activated the data device. Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing documents, charts, and video recordings. At first, David couldn't understand what he was looking at. Then the horrible truth became clear. The Council's real history was nothing like what they had told humanity. Every few hundred years, they would find a new species that had just discovered space travel. They would welcome them with open arms, just like they had welcomed humans. They would share technology and knowledge, making the new species dependent on them. But it was all part of a plan. Once the new species was completely reliant on Council technology, the real harvesting began. Resources, technology, genetic material, everything valuable would be slowly stripped away. When there was nothing left to take, the species would be eliminated. "Look at this section," Maya whispered, pointing to a chart that made David's blood run cold. The document showed a list of 43 different species. Each one had been integrated into the Council over the past several thousand years. Each one was now marked as harvested and eliminated. At the bottom of the list, in fresh text, was a new entry. Species 44, humans, integration phase, complete. Begin final harvest. David sank into his chair. "How long do we have?" 72 hours, Maya replied. "They've been collecting genetic samples from every human they could for the past year. Medical checkups, food safety tests, environmental studies, it was all a cover to map our DNA. They've created a biological weapon that targets only human physiology. The plan was elegant and horrible. Every human colony, every space station, every ship with humans aboard would be hit simultaneously. The weapon would be released through the air recycling systems that the Council had so helpfully upgraded for all human facilities. Within hours, every human in the galaxy would be dead, except for those on Earth itself." "What about Earth?" David asked desperately. Maya's face went white. "They've been slowly changing our atmosphere for 2 years. Those environmental improvements they suggested, the new atmospheric processors they installed, they're gradually introducing compounds that will make the biological weapon even more effective when they finally release it." David stood up and began pacing. His mind raced through possibilities and escape plans. "Who else knows about this?" "No one yet. I barely escaped their security forces. They killed Dr. Peterson when he tried to help me copy the files. David, we have to warn everyone, every human in the galaxy. If we send out a general broadcast, they'll know we've discovered their plan. They might move up their timeline." Maya shook her head. "It doesn't matter anymore. The preparations are too far along to stop. Their ships are already moving into position around our colonies. This is happening whether we warn people or not. At least if we tell them, some might have a chance to run." David activated his personal communication system and began recording. He had to be careful with his words. Too much detail and the council would shut down the broadcast before it could reach everyone. Too little and people wouldn't believe the danger was real. This is Ambassador David Williams broadcasting on Emergency Channel Alpha 7. All humans receiving this message must listen carefully. The Galactic Council has betrayed us. Everything they told us about peace and cooperation was a lie. They planned to eliminate our species within 72 hours using a biological weapon designed specifically to kill humans. He paused, knowing that his next words would change everything for their species. Every human colony, station, and ship is in immediate danger. The atmospheric processors they installed on Earth are part of the attack plan. You must evacuate immediately. Take only what you need to survive. Trust no council member or council. Technology. This is not a drill. This is not a mistake. Our species faces extinction. Maya had been monitoring council communications while he spoke. Her face was grim. They're already moving to shut down our communications. You have maybe 10 more seconds. David looked directly into the recording device. To any humans who receive this message, run, hide, survive. The council believes they have already won, but they don't understand humanity. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We will survive this too. Find each other. Work together. Never give up. Humanity endures. The communication system went dead. Red warning lights began flashing throughout the station. An alien voice echoed over the public address system in the council's ancient language. David didn't need a translator to know what it meant. They were in trouble. We need to get off this station, Maya said, gathering the data devices. Where can we go? They control everything. Maya smiled grimly. Not everything. Captain Bradley's exploration fleet is 3 light-years from here. They're too far out for the council to have reached them yet. If we can get to a ship and warn them, maybe they can start coordinating evacuations. David nodded and activated his emergency beacon. If any humans were still free on Nexus Station, they would know to find him. As they prepared to leave everything behind, David realized that this was only the beginning. The council had made one crucial mistake in their calculations. They had never fought humans before. The alarm sirens on Mars Colony screamed through the red dust-filled air as Director Lisa Chen ran through the main corridor. Her tablet showed dozens of council ships approaching the outer system, their weapons already charging. Ambassador Williams's warning had reached them just in time, but barely. Status report, she shouted over the noise to her deputy, Mike Torres. We have 46 hours before they arrive. 300,000 colonists need evacuation. We have transport capacity for maybe half that number. Mike's voice was steady, but his eyes showed the same fear everyone felt. Lisa stopped running and grabbed his arm. Then we make more capacity. Strip everything non-essential from every ship. Cargo holds, research labs, even the hydroponics bays. Turn them all into passenger space. People can survive cramped conditions for a few days. They can't survive what's coming. Around them, families rushed past carrying whatever belongings they could manage. Children cried while their parents tried to explain why they had to leave their homes so suddenly. The lucky ones had received priority boarding passes for the larger transport ships. The rest would have to take their chances on whatever vessels could be found. Dr. Rodriguez's voice crackled over Lisa's communicator from her research ship in orbit. Lisa, I'm sending down every spare shuttle and cargo pod I have. My ship can take another 2,000 people if we remove all the laboratory equipment. Maya, you need that equipment to develop countermeasures against their biological weapon. I'll worry about the science later. Right now, I'm worried about having any humans left to save. Captain Tom Bradley's exploration fleet had become humanity's lifeline. His 5 ships were designed for long-term deep space missions, which made them perfect as refugee vessels. Each ship could support its normal crew of 50 for 2 years. By converting every available space, they could carry 500 people for several weeks. The evacuation was not going smoothly. Panic had set in among some colonists who couldn't secure transport off-world. Fights broke out at the spaceport as people tried to force their way onto ships. Lisa had to deploy security forces to maintain order, but she understood their desperation. They were all facing the same terrible choice: flee with nothing or die with everything. Director Chen called out an engineer named Roberts. "We have a problem with the atmospheric processors." Lisa felt her heart sink. What kind of problem? "They're not shutting down. We've tried everything. Manual controls, computer overrides, even cutting the power cables. They keep running on some kind of backup system we can't access." Maya's warning echoed in Lisa's mind. The Council had been slowly poisoning their air for 2 years, preparing for their biological attack. Even if they escaped the planet, the poison in their systems might kill them anyway. "Keep trying," Lisa ordered, "and get some of our best engineers working on it. If we can't shut them down, maybe we can reverse what they've done." Captain Bradley's voice came over the colony-wide communication system. "This is Captain Bradley to all Mars colony residents. My fleet is moving into position to begin evacuation runs. We will not leave anyone behind who wants to come with us. I repeat, we will not abandon anyone." His words brought hope, but Lisa knew the math. Even with every available ship working around the clock, they couldn't save everyone. The Council had planned this too well. They had made humanity dependent on their technology, their transportation, their infrastructure. When they pulled it all away at once, humans were left helpless, or so the Council thought. The first surprise came from the mining stations in the asteroid belt. Miners had always been independent and resourceful. When the evacuation order came, they didn't wait for official transport. They welded life support systems onto cargo haulers and mining ships. Vessels never designed to carry passengers suddenly became emergency transports. Old Pete Kowalski, a veteran miner who had worked the asteroids for 30 years, managed to fit 200 refugees into a ship meant for hauling ore. "It ain't pretty and it ain't comfortable," he radioed to Lisa, "but it flies and it'll keep folks breathing until we find somewhere safe." The second surprise came from the civilian ship owners. Pleasure craft, cargo haulers, even racing ships were volunteering to help with the evacuation. Ship owners who had never carried passengers were learning how to convert their vessels in a matter of hours. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected source. A message arrived from deep space, broadcast on frequencies the Council didn't monitor. The voice was human, but the accent was strange, ancient. "This is Commander Sarah Kim of the generation ship Prosperity. We have been traveling between stars for 200 years since leaving Earth. We received your emergency broadcast. We are changing course to assist." Lisa stared at her communication screen in amazement. The generation ships were legends from the early days of human space travel. Massive vessels carrying entire communities launched before faster-than-light travel was invented. Everyone assumed they were lost in the void between stars. "Commander Kim, this is Director Chen on Mars.
How many people can you take?"
Our ship was built to support 50,000 people indefinitely. We currently have 18,000 aboard. We can take 30,000 more without straining our resources." More generation ships began reporting in. The New Horizon, the Starward, Bound, the Endless Journey. Ships launched decades or even centuries ago, still traveling between the stars, still carrying human communities. They had received the distress calls and were coming home to help. Dr. Rodriguez worked frantically aboard her research vessel as refugees poured in from the planet below. She had converted her entire ship into a mobile laboratory and refugee center. While caring for evacuees, she studied blood samples and atmospheric readings, trying to understand exactly what the Council had done to them. Her preliminary results were both terrifying and hopeful. The Council's biological weapon was specifically designed to target human DNA, but human genetic diversity was more complex than they had calculated. The weapon would be deadly, but it might not be 100% effective. "Lisa," Maya called down to the planet, "I need blood samples from as many different people as possible. Different ethnicities, different colony worlds, different genetic backgrounds. If we're lucky, the Council's weapon isn't as perfect as they think." As the evacuation continued, stories of heroism began spreading. Transport pilots were making runs until their ships literally fell apart from overuse. Engineers were working without sleep to modify vessels for passenger capacity. Even children were helping by organizing supply distribution and caring for younger refugees. Captain Bradley coordinated the massive operation from his flagship. His exploration vessels darted between Mars, the asteroid mining stations, and the outer system colonies, picking up refugees and ferrying them to the growing fleet of human ships gathering at a hidden location. But they were running out of time. Council forces had accelerated their schedule. Instead of 72 hours, they now had less than 24 hours before the attack began. "This is our last run to Mars' surface," Bradley announced. "All ships prepare for immediate departure after pickup." Lisa Chen stood in the empty control room of Mars Colony and looked around at the home she was abandoning. 3 generations of humans had lived and worked here. They had terraformed parts of the planet, built cities, raised families. Now they were leaving it all behind to save their lives. She activated the colony's final broadcast. "This is Director Chen to any humans still on Mars. The last transport leaves in 2 hours. After that, you're on your own. To the Council forces, listening to this, you may take our homes, but you will never break our spirit. Humans endure." As her shuttle lifted off from the red planet for the last time, Lisa watched the lights of the colony fade below. But ahead of her, scattered across the darkness of space, hundreds of ships carried 2 million human refugees to safety. The Council had succeeded in driving humanity from their homes, but they had made a crucial mistake. They had turned humanity into something they had never been before: united. The asteroid field that had once been home to the Vegan civilization stretched endlessly through space, filled with the broken remains of a dead world. Dr. Maya Rodriguez floated in her environmental suit among the debris, collecting samples and taking readings. Each piece of rock told part of a story that ended in genocide. "The radiation signatures match what we found in the Council archives," she reported to Captain Bradley over her communicator. "They use the same biological weapon here that they plan to use on us." Bradley's voice crackled back through the static of the asteroid field. "How long ago?" "Based on the decay rate, maybe 300 years. This civilization was completely eliminated." Maya paused as her scanner detected something unusual. "Tom, I'm reading life signs from the inner part of the field. That's impossible. Nothing could survive here." Maya adjusted her thruster pack and moved deeper into the asteroid field. The radiation levels increased, but her suit's shielding held. As she rounded a massive chunk of what had once been a city, she gasped. Hidden in the shadow of the largest asteroid was a ship unlike anything she had ever seen. It was clearly alien in design, but it bore the scars of countless repairs and modifications. Hull plates from different sources had been welded together. Weapon systems from various species adorned its surface. This was a survivor's ship. "Tom, you need to see this," Maya whispered. Within an hour, Captain Bradley's shuttle approached the mysterious vessel. As they drew closer, the alien ship's communication system activated. The voice that emerged spoke in heavily accented but understandable English. "Human ships, identify yourselves. We mean no harm, but we will defend ourselves if threatened." Bradley activated his communication system. "This is Captain Tom Bradley of the Human Exploration Fleet. We received information that there might be survivors in this area." A long pause followed. Then, "You are the species that recently escaped from the Council?" "Yes." "How did you know?" "Because we did the same thing. 300 years ago. Permission to come aboard your ship?" An hour later, Bradley, Maya, and Lisa Chen sat in the shuttle's small conference room across from 3 alien beings. The leader introduced himself as Elder Kai of the Altarian people. His skin was pale blue and covered with intricate tattoos that seemed to tell a story. Beside him sat a Drekmori warrior named Vex, whose reptilian features were marked by battle scars. The third alien was a Centauri engineer called Nyx, whose 4 arms worked constantly on some kind of portable device. "We have been watching your escape for the past several days," Elder Kai explained. "Your methods are unusual." "Unusual how?" Lisa asked. Vex spoke for the first time, his voice deep and rough. "Most species run and hide when they discover the Council's betrayal. They scatter across the galaxy trying to survive in isolation. You seem to be gathering your people together. Of course we're staying together, Bradley replied. We're stronger. As a unit, the three aliens exchanged glances. Nick stopped working on his device and looked up. In our experience, species unity rarely survives the trauma of betrayal and exile. Fear makes people selfish. Desperation makes them suspicious of each other. Maya leaned forward. How many species have survived the Council's harvesting? 6 that we know of, Elder Kai replied. Each of us lost billions of our people. The survivors number in the thousands, sometimes hundreds. We have lived as nomads for centuries, hiding in places like this, staying isolated to avoid attracting the Council's attention. That's about to change, Bradley said firmly. We're not hiding, we're fighting back. Vex laughed, but there was no humor in it. Fight back? You have no weapons that can match Council technology. Your ships are primitive compared to theirs. Your numbers are tiny. What could you possibly do against an empire that spans 1,000 worlds? Lisa Chen stood up and walked to the shuttle's viewing port. Through the transparent metal, she could see dozens of human ships moving through the asteroid field, their crews working to establish hidden supply depots and repair facilities. You're right that we don't have superior technology or overwhelming numbers, she said without turning around. But we have something else. Something the Council doesn't understand and apparently something other species haven't tried. What is that? Elder Kai asked. Lisa turned back to face them. We fight for each other. The next several hours were spent in detailed discussions. The surviving alien species shared their knowledge of Council tactics, hidden routes through space, and technologies they had developed during their years of exile. The Drekmori had perfected stealth systems that could hide entire fleets. The Centauri had developed hit-and-run tactics that could damage Council forces without direct confrontation. The Altarians had mapped secret passages through hyperspace that the Council didn't monitor. But the aliens remained skeptical of humanity's aggressive plans. They had survived by avoiding contact with the Council for hundreds of years. The idea of actively fighting back seemed insane to them. The moment that changed everything happened during a supply transfer between ships. A Drekmori transport vessel suffered a catastrophic failure in its life support system. Toxic gases began flooding the ship's passenger compartments where 200 Drekmori refugees were housed. The response from the human fleet was immediate and instinctive. 3 human ships moved to assist without being asked. Human engineers put themselves at risk entering the damaged alien ship to repair the life support. Human medical teams treated Drekmori suffering from gas poisoning. Human supply officers shared precious oxygen reserves to keep the aliens alive. Throughout the rescue operation, no human asked for payment or demanded anything in return. They simply saw beings in danger and acted to help them. Elder Kai watched the rescue from his ship's observation deck. Beside him, Vex shook his reptilian head in amazement. I have never seen anything like this, the warrior admitted. They risk their own lives for complete strangers of a different species. This is why they will succeed where we failed, Elder Kai said quietly. We learn to survive by becoming isolated and selfish. They survive by becoming more connected to each other and to anyone who needs help. The next day, the first joint operation between humans and the survivor species was planned. The target was a Council supply depot in an uninhabited system. The operation would serve 2 purposes: gather supplies needed by the refugee fleets, and test whether humans could work effectively with their new allies. Dr. Rodriguez had spent the night analyzing Council biological weapons with the help of Altarian scientists. Their combined knowledge revealed something crucial. The Council's weapons were designed to target specific genetic markers. But humans had colonized dozens of different worlds, and each environment had caused slight genetic adaptations. The Council had based their weapon on samples from Earth, but humans from Mars, Europa, and the Generation ships might have different resistance levels. We need to test this theory, Maya explained to the assembled representatives. But it means putting volunteers at risk. I'll volunteer, Bradley said immediately. As will I, Elder Kai added. If this weapon truly cannot target all human genetic variations, It might not be effective against other species either. Over the next week, the hidden asteroid base became a center of activity unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. 6 different species worked together, sharing knowledge and resources. Human engineers learned Drakmori stealth technology while teaching alien crews about human tactics. Altarian pilots trained humans to use hyperspace routes while learning human formation flying techniques. The most important development was not technological, but social. For the first time in hundreds of years, the scattered survivor species had hope. They saw humans refuse to accept defeat or fade into hiding. The human example inspired them to remember that they had once been proud civilizations with their own strength and courage. Captain Bradley addressed the growing alliance from his flagship. Representatives from all 6 survivor species listened as he outlined their new strategy. The Council believes they have broken us. They think we will scatter and hide like previous species, but they made a mistake. They gave us a common enemy and a shared cause. We're not just running away anymore. We're building something new, a united front against tyranny. Elder Kai stood to respond. For 3 centuries, my people have lived in fear. Today, for the first time, I feel hope. The Altarians pledge our support to this alliance. One by one, the other species added their voices. The Drakmori would provide stealth and reconnaissance. The Centauri would handle logistics and engineering. The others would contribute their unique skills and knowledge. Maya Rodriguez looked at the diverse group of beings around the conference table and smiled. The Council had spent thousands of years dividing and conquering different species. They had never faced anything like this united alliance. The real war was about to begin. The freighter's steady progress drifted through space, apparently disabled and helpless. Its hull showed blast damage from what appeared to be a recent Council attack. Inside, the cargo holds were filled with refugees fleeing from the latest Council offensive. Emergency distress signals broadcast continuously, begging for help from anyone willing to assist civilians in need. From the bridge, Captain Tom Bradley watched 3 Council warships approach. Each vessel was 10 times larger than his modified freighter, bristling with weapons that could destroy his ship with a single volley. According to every tactical manual in the galaxy, he should surrender or flee. Instead, he smiled. "Are our guests comfortable?" he asked his communications officer. "The Drakmori engineers report their stealth fields are holding perfectly. The Council ships can't detect them." "And Dr. Rodriguez?" "Her team confirms the biological countermeasures are ready for deployment." Bradley nodded and opened a communication channel to the approaching Council ships. "Council vessels, this is Captain Bradley of the refugee ship Steady Progress. We have civilians aboard who need medical attention. Can you provide assistance?" The reply came quickly, filled with arrogance and contempt. "Human vessel, you will prepare to be boarded. Your passengers will be processed according to Council protocols." Everyone on the bridge knew what Council protocols meant. The refugees would be used for experiments before being eliminated. The ship would be stripped of anything valuable, then destroyed. "Understood, Council ships. We're dropping our shields and powering down weapons." The 3 Council warships moved in formation around the apparently helpless human freighter. Their boarding shuttles launched, filled with soldiers ready to collect their prizes. They had no idea they were flying into a carefully prepared trap. The first surprise came when the Steady Progress suddenly wasn't alone. Cloaked Drakmori attack ships materialized around the Council vessels, their weapons already firing. The Council ships had shields designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles, but they had never encountered the phase weapons that Altarian engineers had developed. The second surprise came from the Steady Progress itself. What looked like a damaged cargo hauler suddenly revealed hidden weapon systems. The ship's entire outer hull split open like flower petals, exposing military-grade cannon and missile systems. Dr. Rodriguez's team had spent months converting human freighters into disguised warships. But the third surprise was the most devastating. As the Council boarding shuttles reached the human ship, they encountered something completely unexpected. Instead of refugees, they found automated systems releasing a modified version of their own biological weapon into the shuttle compartments. "Maya, Rodriguez had spent weeks studying council biology using samples from their previous attacks. She had turned their own weapon against them, creating a compound that targeted council species while leaving humans unaffected. The battle lasted only minutes. 2 council warships were destroyed outright. The third managed to escape, but not before its crew was exposed to the biological countermeasure. They would carry Maya's gift back to other council ships, spreading confusion and fear throughout their ranks. Similar scenarios played out across the galaxy as humanity's new strategy took effect. The council had expected broken refugees fleeing in panic. Instead, they found coordinated resistance that struck back with tactics they had never encountered. The key to success was unpredictability. Human military doctrine had been developed through centuries of warfare against other humans, the most unpredictable enemy possible. Council forces, accustomed to fighting species that followed logical, predictable patterns, found themselves completely outmaneuvered. Captain Lisa Chen commanded a modified mining ship called the Iron Maiden through an asteroid field, pursued by a council squadron. The aliens expected her to try to hide among the rocks or find an escape route. Instead, she led them directly into a mining zone where human engineers had rigged the asteroids with explosive charges. The resulting chain reaction destroyed half the pursuing squadron and left the survivors too damaged to continue the chase. The Iron Maiden disappeared into hyperspace, its crew already planning their next strike. Dr. Rodriguez coordinated the resistance from her mobile laboratory aboard the research vessel New Horizon. Her ship had become a combination command center, weapons development facility, and refugee medical center. Every day brought new innovations in the war against the Council. Status report from all sectors, she requested from her senior staff. Sector 7 report successful raids on 3 Council supply depots. They captured enough medical supplies to treat our wounded for 6 months. Sector 12 eliminated a Council patrol squadron using the new phase torpedoes. No human casualties. Sector 4 reports they've liberated a Centauri prison colony. 2,000 survivors rescued and requesting to join the resistance. Maya smiled as she reviewed the reports. Each success built momentum for the growing rebellion, but more importantly, each victory sent a message throughout the galaxy that the Council was not invincible. The psychological warfare was as important as the military campaigns. For thousands of years, the Council had maintained control through fear and the illusion of overwhelming power. When species believed resistance was hopeless, they would submit to harvesting rather than fight a war they could not win. Humanity changed that calculation. Videos of Council ships fleeing from human attacks spread through underground networks across the galaxy. Species still under Council control began asking dangerous questions about their rulers' supposed invincibility. The Council's response was predictably brutal. They began systematic extermination campaigns against any species that showed signs of rebellion. Entire worlds were sterilized to make examples for others. The message was clear: submit or face complete destruction. But the brutality backfired. Instead of cowing potential rebels into submission, the atrocities revealed the Council's true nature to species that had still believed in their benevolent intentions. Moderate voices that had counseled cooperation with the Council were replaced by revolutionaries demanding resistance. Elder Kai reported from the liberated Altarian colony on the edge of Council space. 17 more species have sent representatives requesting to join the Alliance. They're bringing ships, weapons, and intelligence about Council operations. The Alliance had grown from 6 refugee species to over 30 civilizations united against Council rule. Human tactical doctrine was being adapted by dozens of different military traditions, creating a web of resistance that the Council could not predict or counter. But Captain Bradley knew they were approaching a critical moment. The Council was beginning to adapt to their tactics. Recent battles had been harder fought with fewer clear victories. Intelligence reports suggested the Council was consolidating their forces for a massive counterattack. Maya, Bradley called from his command ship, how close are you to completing the analysis of their central command structure? Very close. The intelligence we captured from the Nexus Prime archives shows their entire command and control network. Depends on a single facility. If we could destroy it, we could cripple their ability to coordinate forces across the galaxy. What kind of defenses are we talking about? It's protected by the largest fleet in Council space. Thousands of ships, planetary defense systems that could destroy entire task forces, and biological weapons capable of sterilizing any attacking force. Bradley was quiet for a long moment. So a direct assault is impossible. With conventional tactics, yes. But you've taught us that humans don't use conventional tactics. Over the next several weeks, the Alliance prepared for their most ambitious operation yet. Every ship, every resource, every tactical advantage they had developed would be committed to this single mission. If they succeeded, they could break the Council's hold on the galaxy. If they failed, the Resistance would be crushed forever. The plan required perfect coordination between dozens of different species and hundreds of ships. It would demand sacrifices from everyone involved, and success was far from guaranteed. But as Captain Bradley addressed the Alliance commanders, he saw determination rather than fear in their faces. The Council believes they have already won, he told them. They think we're just prolonging the inevitable. They're about to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity and our allies. We're not just fighting for our own freedom anymore. We're fighting for every species that has ever faced oppression. As the massive Allied fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Maya Rodriguez made final preparations in her laboratory. She had one last surprise for the Council, something that would ensure their defeat even if the military operation failed. The final battle was about to begin. The space around Nexus Prime had never seen anything like it. 3,000 ships from 47 different species emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their diverse designs creating a tapestry of rebellion against the Council's tyranny. At the center of the massive fleet, Captain Tom Bradley's flagship New Dawn led the assault that would decide the fate of the galaxy. "All ships report ready," announced his communications officer. Around them, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. They had trained for this moment, but no simulation could prepare them for the reality of facing the Council's entire home fleet. The Council's response was immediate and overwhelming. Defense platforms orbiting Nexus Prime opened fire with weapons that could crack planets. Thousands of Council warships launched from hidden bases throughout the system. The energy discharge from their simultaneous activation lit up space like a new sun. But the Alliance fleet had not come to fight a traditional battle. Everything they had learned about human tactics over the past months had led to this moment. "Execute Pattern Omega," Bradley commanded. The Allied fleet suddenly scattered in all directions, moving in ways that seemed random but followed a complex plan developed by the combined strategic minds of nearly 50 species. Ships that appeared to flee in panic were actually drawing Council forces into carefully prepared killing zones. Dr. Maya Rodriguez guided her strike team through the underground tunnels beneath Nexus Prime's surface. Her mission was crucial to the overall plan, but it required getting past defenses that had never been breached in the Council's 1,000-year history. "Biological sensors show heavy contamination ahead," reported Vex, the Drakmori warrior who had become her second-in-command. "Whatever they're keeping down here, it's designed to kill anything that gets too close." Maya checked her readings and felt her blood run cold. The tunnels ahead were saturated with concentrated versions of the biological weapons the Council had used to eliminate dozens of species. This was more than a laboratory. It was a museum of genocide. "Seal your environmental suits and activate the countermeasures," she ordered. Over the past months, her team had developed protective measures against most of the Council's biological arsenal. Today, they would test those defenses against the deadliest concentrations ever created. As they moved deeper into the facility, the horrible truth became clear. The Council had preserved genetic samples from every species they had eliminated, storing them in massive crystalline databases that stretched for kilometers underground. Millions of different life forms, entire civilizations reduced to data patterns in gleaming storage matrices. "My God," whispered Nix, the Centauri engineer. "They've kept records of everyone they've murdered." Maya forced herself to focus on the mission despite the overwhelming horror around them. "This is why we're here. If we can destroy this database, we can prevent them from creating new biological weapons. More importantly, we might be able to restore some of these species. The team fought their way through automated defense systems that had been designed to protect the Council's most precious secrets. Energy barriers tried to slice them apart while robotic guardians emerged from hidden alcoves. But human engineering, combined with alien technology, proved superior to the static defenses. Above them, the space battle raged with unprecedented fury. Captain Bradley coordinated the Allied fleet from his command center, watching as ships from dozens of species fought. With tactics they had learned from humanity, the Council forces were larger and more heavily armed, but they were fighting an enemy unlike any they had faced before. "Status report from all sectors," Bradley requested. "Sector Alpha reports successful penetration of the outer defense grid. Drakmori stealth ships have eliminated 12 defense platforms. Sector Beta is engaging the main Council fleet. Heavy casualties on both sides, but we're holding position. Sector Gamma reports they've broken through to the planet's surface. Landing forces are deploying according to plan." Bradley nodded grimly. The battle was going according to their projections, but those projections included massive losses on their side. They were trading lives for the chance to end the Council's reign of terror forever. The turning point came when Elder Kai's squadron encountered the Council's supreme commander aboard his massive flagship. The alien vessel was larger than some space stations, armed with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. But it also represented everything the Council believed about their superiority over other species. "This is Elder Kai of the Altarian people," he broadcast on all frequencies. "300 years ago your forces murdered my world. Today we return the favor." The Altarian ships attacked with a fury born of centuries of suffering. They were joined by Drakmori warriors seeking vengeance for their own losses, Centauri engineers determined to prove their worth, and humans who fought not for revenge, but for the principle that no species should dominate others. The Supreme Commander's flagship was powerful, but it could not withstand the coordinated assault of so many different tactical approaches working in perfect harmony. When it finally exploded, the shockwave could be seen from across the system. Deep underground, Maya's team reached the central control chamber of the biological weapons facility. The room was vast, filled with computing systems that managed the genetic databases of extinct civilizations. At the center stood a council scientist who had been waiting for them. "You are too late, humans," the alien said, its voice filled with contempt. "Even if you destroy this facility, there are others. The harvesting will continue. Your species will join all the others in our collection." Maya pulled off her helmet and looked directly at the council scientist. "You made one crucial mistake in your calculations. You assumed we were just another species to be harvested. But humans don't just survive. We adapt, we innovate, and we never give up." She activated a device that had been designed specifically for this moment. Instead of simply destroying the genetic databases, it began uploading their contents to the Allied fleet above. Every extinct species, every lost civilization, every murdered world, all of their genetic patterns were being preserved and transmitted to safe locations throughout the galaxy. "What have you done?" the council scientist demanded. "We've given them back their future," Maya replied. "Every species you eliminated can be restored. Every world you sterilized can bloom again. Your reign of terror ends today." The facility's destruction triggered a chain reaction that spread throughout the Council's command network. Automated systems that had enforced their rule for millennia began shutting down as their control codes were overridden by human computer viruses that had been hidden in the data uploads. Across the galaxy, species that had been held in bondage for centuries suddenly found their shackles broken. Council garrison forces found themselves outnumbered and isolated as entire worlds rose in rebellion. Captain Bradley received the final status reports as the battle above Nexus Prime wound down. The Council's main fleet had been destroyed or scattered. Their command structure was in ruins. Most importantly, the biological weapons facility had been eliminated along with the Council's ability to create species-specific weapons. "Casualties?" he asked quietly. "Heavy, but within acceptable parameters. We lost about 30% of our ships, but the Council lost everything. They're finished as a military force." Bradley nodded. feeling the weight of all the lives lost in the struggle. But their sacrifice had meaning. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy was free from the Council's tyranny. Dr. Rodriguez emerged from the ruined facility with her team, carrying data crystals that contained the genetic patterns of hundreds of extinct species. Her face was grim but determined as she boarded the shuttle that would take her back to her ship. "Status of the genetic recovery project?" Bradley asked over the communicator. "Better than we hoped. We have complete genetic patterns for over 200 species. With the right resources and time, we can bring them back." The Council meant this place to be a monument to their power. Instead, it's become the foundation for a new beginning. 5 years later, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Council's member worlds had formed the Federation of Free Worlds, with humanity taking a leading role not through conquest, but through service. Human diplomatic vessels traveled to newly liberated worlds, offering aid and protection rather than demands for submission. Maya Rodriguez had established the Galactic Restoration Project on a mobile space station, working with scientists from dozens of species to bring extinct civilizations back from genetic patterns. The first restored species, a gentle plant-like people called the Verdani, had already established new colonies on worlds that had been empty for millennia. Captain Bradley, now Admiral, commanded the Federation fleet from his flagship. The ships under his command included vessels from over 60 different species, each contributing their unique strengths to a common defense. But more importantly, the fleet's mission was exploration and protection rather than conquest. The most remarkable change was philosophical. The galaxy's newest major civilization had chosen to be its guardian rather than its ruler. Human ships carried a simple message to every world they visited. We are humanity. We offer friendship to all who seek peace and protection to all who face oppression. We are the ones who break cycles. As Admiral Bradley stood on the observation deck of his ship, watching a newly restored Vegan colony ship head toward its ancestral home, he reflected on what they had accomplished. The Council had ruled through fear and division. Humanity had chosen unity and hope. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had intended.